This is the regular meeting of the City Commission of Oregon City for Wednesday, February 4th. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Shaw,
Here.
Commissioner Smith,
Here.
Commissioner West,
Here.
and Commission President Polly, and Mayor Holliday is absent this evening.
Here. Please join me for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, on to ceremonies, proclamations, or presentations. I see that there are none. So, citizen comments. Are there any citizens wishing to make a comment? Yes, we have Bob Mahoney. Would you please come up? Hello.
Clarify. Just one?
Yeah, usually.
Just one so far.
I don't get to move.
Yeah, you.
If anybody would else like to speak, you can fill out a form for the city recorder.
He just wants 6 minutes.
3 minutes, Bob.
Okay.
We're sticking to the time limit.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and members of the commission and Chief of Police. I always say hello to the Chief of Police. He might be packing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Of course he is.
Oh, yeah? I'll make it quick then. I don't want you aiming, getting a beat on me.
State your name for the
Okay.
record, please.
Bob Mahoney. I live in Oregon City. I want to just briefly mention something I think that's recently been on our minds for the last couple of years since we've been dealing with concept plans and what have you. I think one of the most important documents that we have, other than the charter for the city, is the budget and the comprehensive plan. That comprehensive plan represents a contract, so to speak, between the city and the residents of the community in terms of how we're going to deal with urban growth, and also the investors throughout the county that are looking for some certainty so that they'll know where to invest their money if and when. And that is really important. But recently we've been hearing slogans like Portland Creep and Metro Creep and what have you. I'm going to introduce another one into the arena. It's called Luba Creek. Creek. Well, they're up a creek. Anyway, the reason I mention it is because it seems like the land use planning decisions upon which our land use is based is more or less outlined in Senate Bill 100, state land use goals and objectives, which start out with number 1, citizen participation, which is great. But we got to keep in mind that state land use goals and objectives are region-wide to the extent of being statewide. And we are dealing with localized land use decisions here. And it seems to me, because of LUFA being the last point of appeal before it goes to the courts, that LUFA's getting into the weeds here and dealing with some detail that has to be kept local in terms of density, in terms of industrial location. And when you're talking about regional problems such as traffic, air quality, water pollution, and things like that, that does have a characteristic of being regional and maybe statewide. But when you get into these appeals after appeals after appeals of decisions that have been made at the local level, it seems to me that the decision-making process is getting further and further away from the taxpayer. And they want access to you people who make local decisions for them who live in this city and pay the bills. So if we're going to pay for the infrastructure at a local level, which deals with our collector streets and our arterial streets and things like that, it seems to me that we ought to be able to have the decisions at the local level. Now, all it is just doing a little bit of redesign of the process, the planning process. There's a planning over here, the theory of planning. There's the process over here. We got to have that balance. That red light. I keep
Yeah,
putting my.
that was a nice try.
I thought that was a hockey puck, and I just made it.
Yeah, that was nice.
Okay. Thank you very
Bob.
kindly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Draw me.
He's
Yeah.
looking on his phone.
Is there anyone else who wishes to address the City Commission on issues not on the agenda? Okay. Let's move on to adoption of the agenda. Are there any changes to the order of the agenda, or does the commissioner wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Hearing none, the agenda will be adopted as presented. Okay. Public hearings. The first is PC 15-150 Oregon City Sign Code Update. Staff report.
Thank you, Commission President Pauly, and evening commissioners. Tonight we are requesting that the City Commission continue the public hearing for Planning File L1401, the sign code update, to the date certain of April 1st, 2015. We have this has been reviewed by the Planning Commission and moved to the City Commission for their consideration. We have 2 work sessions scheduled with the City Commission. One is on February 10th to provide an introduction to the sign code, start walking through the code itself, and then a follow-up one on March 10th to complete that discussion and then talk about enforcement, funding, in those matters. So we hope to get those 2 work sessions in prior to you hearing this again on April 1st, 2010, to provide the new commissioners an update on what we've done and the older commissioners an update on how we've gotten to where we're at. So that is why we're requesting the continuance here tonight. We are recommending that if anyone wishes to testify tonight, that the commission take that testimony and then continue the hearing with the record open to the date certain of April 1st, 2015.
Okay. I'm going to seek counsel for this. Do I need to officially open the public hearing, even though there's going to be a continuance?
You could choose to continue it directly. I know staff has recommended that you open it to allow
Yes. Okay.
things.
Yep.
One thing to keep in mind, and this is always when you start dealing with land use, this is a legislative as opposed to a quasi-judicial matter, so we don't have the same statement. We also, as you think about it, when you deal with a quasi-judicial matter, you think about bias and ex parte context. In legislation, you don't have to worry about those at all. You're supposed to come in biased. You're supposed to come in, people can approach you about this topic. However, you do have a conflict of interest thing when you deal with legislative, and we can get into that, but I don't anticipate any with a sign code change. So.
Okay. Well, then let's open the public hearing. Are there any members of the public present to speak at this time on the sign code? And we do. We have Tom O'Brien. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. President and Commissioners.
Good evening.
I was unaware that this was going to be continued when I filed to speak, but it gives me an opportunity to encourage you to follow up yourselves between now and your first work session. Some of the things that were discovered by the task force. As you look around the city, you will see that we have a lot of negativism because of very sloppy enforcement of our signage laws. We have probably a third as many illegal signs in the city right now as we have legal ones. We have a lot of signs that appear not to have even ever received a permit. People in this city are putting up signs wherever, whenever, however they feel. They are leaving them out even when their businesses are closed over a weekend, over a holiday, what have you. If I, as an investor, wanted to purchase property or open a business in this city, I would be persuaded not to, based on how ugly this city looks due to a lack of enforcement. So I encourage you, just look around, look at all the banners, look at all the A-frame signs, look at all the hand crayon written pencil markers signs that you see leaning up against a post. It is terrible. We project an extremely negative image of our city with what we are currently doing. And I come from a background where I dealt in corporate identity. I understand the value of projecting a good image. So I would encourage you, do your homework. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay, I see no other speakers. So we'll close the public hearing. And may I have a motion to continue?
I would, I guess I have to do it. Just do it.
Just do it.
Okay. I'll move that we continue PC 15-150 sign up code, update for the sign code.
To a date undetermined?
April 1st, 2015 is what staff has recommended.
April 1st,
Yes. Let's not
2015.
think too much about the symbolism involved there.
Okay.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
So can you press your buttons, please, to motion and second?
Okay.
Where are we here?
It work?
And is there any discussion from the commission?
Well, oops, I got to press a button. Sorry. Well, thank you, Mr. O'Brien. And yes, it's been 4 years since I've been on City Commission, and I look forward to these next 2 work sessions to get up to speed on this issue. So, point well taken.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, let's call the question on the motion.
Yes. Commissioner Shaw.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Polly.
Aye.
And please press your buttons.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, and we have
And it
another
passes.
public hearing. Okay, this is PC 15-151, request for continuance 2 appeals on planning files. SP 1401, Beaver Creek Road, Live Work Apartments, planning files AP 1401 and AP 1402. Staff report.
Thank you, Commission President Pauly and Commissioners again. At our last City Commission meeting, you heard 2 appeals, Planning File AP 1401 and Planning File AP 1402, appeal of the Live Work Apartments proposed on Beaver Creek Road. The appellant for AP 1401, who is the applicant of the land use application in this instance, has requested a continuance of the hearing to February 18th, 2015, your next City Commission meeting, to allow additional time to respond to the issues that have been raised during the initial hearing. So staff does recommend that the City Commission take testimony from any person who's here tonight interested in testifying, and then continue the hearing with the record open to the date certain of February 18th, 2015.
Okay. This item is a public hearing, and I will open the public hearing on item PC 15-151. Would the applicant please come forward for their presentation?
And Commissioner President, before we go forward with the applicant, I do want to quickly touch base. This, like I said, the last one was legislative. This is quasi-judicial, where you are acting as a judge, and there are certain things I'm required to read into the record. First, and to the testimony, first, the staff report is part of the record and should be available in the back of the room and was online. That lists the applicable criteria. If anybody needs those, let me know. Testimony, argument, and evidence should be directed toward those criteria or other criteria in the plan or the city's land use regulations that a person believes to apply to this decision. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the city commission and other parties to respond to the issue will preclude appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals, and failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the council to respond to the issue will preclude an action for damages in circuit court. With that, are there any declarations of bias, ex parte, or conflict of interest?
I alluded to this at the last meeting, but I should state it clearly that I don't have any conflicts, but I work directly across the street, and so I'm across the street from this property every day.
Any challenges to any of that, to that disclosure? Seeing none? All right.
Okay,
Let's open the public
thank
hearing.
you. So would the applicant please come forward with their presentation? Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Christy White. I'm a colleague of Steve Holtberg's, who I believe appeared before you in the initial hearing. We did request the continuance to February 18th. Thanks for the presentation on that. And so we won't be providing any additional materials presentation tonight, but we'd like to hear if anybody has testimony. We'll listen to that and then provide any additional evidence or rebuttal that we need to before the February 18th hearing.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you.
We do have some people that wish to speak on this item, so I will call you up two at a time, and you have 3 minutes each. So Tammy Stevens and Christine Kaczynski, and I should know how to pronounce your name. I apologize, Christine.
Quick question, representing the Hamlet. I do believe we got 5 minutes on this. That was mentioned at the last meeting.
It's usually the same as neighborhoods, I think.
Which is 5.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yes, you do have 5 minutes. Thank you.
I need Bob's hat. Good evening. My name is Tammy Stevens, and I chair the board of the Hamlet of Beaver Creek. We want to thank you for holding the record open. The Hamlet has provided input to your planners, and we appreciate this opportunity to provide additional input to you. A lot of discussions and testimony last month rightly revolved around transportation, utilities, and planning. Our board's speaker, Christine Kaczynski, has provided you our third letter addressing our concerns regarding these same and additional issues this evening. This evening, the Hamlet Board and concerned citizens would like to bring to the forefront our two most pressing concerns, safety and livability. There are 6,700 citizens in the Hamlet with one main access road. This number does not include our neighbors in Clarks, Molalla, and Malino who utilize Beaver Creek Road to access the metro area daily. Granted, we could utilize the narrow and dangerous Henrici Road to Redland, or battle the congestion on Highway 213, but Beaver Creek's named the world's largest cul-de-sac for a reason, Beaver Creek Road. What the humble Hamlet citizen living south of Oregon City thinks about is getting to and from home without unreasonable congestion and feeling confident emergency services can reach their family in a time of need. The Clackamas County Fire District number 1 suburban community response time is 7 minutes. Their rural response time is 14 minutes. Would you like your family on the other end of them having a congested rural access? The discussions and plans of development along Beaver Creek Road without a thorough, long-term plan to include transportation, utilities, growth, concurrency, safety, livability, and funding reminds me of just such another primary lifeline, Sunnyside Road. When Happy Valley developed, the county was forced to step in and fix their transportation problem to the tune of tens of millions of dollars. Now Happy Valley is happy with their two new roads. Beaver Creek Road, like Sunnyside Road, is under the jurisdiction of the county. No matter what growth happens on Beaver Creek Road, the county no longer has any money to fix a congestion problem like they did on Sunnyside Road. In fact, the county is seriously struggling to find the money just to maintain their 1,400 miles of roads. So, if the city, county, state, and federal governments cannot fix the results of unplanned, unfunded growth along Beaver Creek Road, who suffers? Do the Oregon City citizens living north of Beaver Creek suffer? Do the employees of the county or city north of Beaver Creek suffer? Do the businesses and residents right on Beaver Creek Road suffer? No. The small businesses and residents of the Hamlet of Beaver Creek living on Wilson, Ferguson, Steiner, Yeoman, Karras, Spangler, Upper and Lower Highland Road, Shubal, Larkin, Buckner Creek, Guard, Cameron, Leland, Lammer, Levi, Ivel, and McBurney roads do. And why? Unplanned spot development of 9 acres of apartments 8-acre bus facility, future development off Maple Lane, an extensive corridor, and a potential industrial enterprise zone, all of which feeds into a failed intersection at Highway 213 and Beaver Creek Road, needing a $40 million overpass. We sincerely understand the value of a healthy, growing community with jobs, economic growth, and a future. What we don't understand and are asking each of you this evening to consider is whether or not you have the cart before the horse. Berry Hill and Hagen's Shopping Center struggle daily to secure successful, long-standing businesses. How can you attract industrial or commercial businesses even further out with limited transportation access? And finally, I want to leave you with 2 additional messages. The first, I sat on the Clackamas County Planning Commission for nearly a decade and numerous county commissions. And if my planner said to me, we're going to build a parallel road and install a huge sewer system and expand our water system, my reaction would have mirrored those of Commissioners Shaw and Pauley. Really? I ask you to ask how roads over territory riddled with landslides and sewer and water systems with unavailable hundreds of millions of dollars. The fundamental theory of immediate economic development is urban renewal and increased density inside the boundary, where all services exist, not expanding and developing a rural area with non-existent services and topography challenges. And finally, as always, we appreciate this opportunity to provide citizen input and share concerns. As an agent of the county and your neighbor, we look forward to working together for the success, safety, and livability of our citizens and businesses. We certainly don't want to obstruct the economic growth and success of Oregon City. However, it cannot be at the expense of Beaver Creek's safety and livability. Thank you.
Thank you. Christine.
My name is Christine Kaczynski. I live in unincorporated Clackamas County. At the January 21st hearing, Commissioners Shaw and Pauley asked about roads, raising concerns that Beaver Creek Road would only be a 3-lane road, questioning capacity. The first handout you have is a page from the Oregon City Transportation Plan. This indicates their plan to heavily use Holly Lane to carry traffic being pushed into an interior central road. Please follow the dark black line on the map from Henrici to Thayer to Maple Lane to Holly and up to Holcomb. This shows the freeway that the city proposes for Holly Lane, all to save Beaver Creek Road, which is inadequate to carry all the traffic being proposed in this area. The second handout lists approximate ADTs per day that the city proposes for the Hilltop area. Trips per day that only have one major arterial and one little north-south connector that is riddled with landslides. Homes on Holly sit within a few feet of the road, with over 100 driveways directly accessing Holly. The city plans to widen Holly where traffic will zoom right in front of homeowners' living room windows. Ancient landslides lining the street can be easily reactivated by excavating or by heavy vibrations. The city has previously been made aware that landslide insurance is no longer available to the people. We have asked the city numerous times, if you excavate on Holly and reactivate landslides, who pays the property damages? And the city has never answered. So here you have it. The city is planning huge development with only one major arterial and one very small north-south connector full of landslides and an irrational transportation plan. There is simply no infrastructure, no roads, and no financial plan to support either the subject land use or the plethora of development you are proposing in this Hilltop area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we have a couple more familiar names on the list to speak. Will Paul Edgar and Doug Neely please come forward, state your name and reside in the city for the record, which we know. Welcome.
Good evening, Commissioner Pauley and President. I'm Paul Edgar from Kanema, Oregon City. This is in the Argonian on 125. They printed out a story about this particular development, and I thought it was important for me to pen a response based upon it, not going into maybe every bit of the detail, but reading the article and my knowledge of all of the history of landslides and transportation. And I sat on the Clackamas County Transportation Advisory Council doing their TSP. And so I look at this and I know that virtually every aspect of infrastructure out in the Beaver Creek area is not adequate. It's just water, sewer, roads. And as I write up into this, what is important is that if we don't have a financial plan, we don't have it knocked down, what we're doing is much like what was said earlier with Happy Valley. But they had a urban renewal district out there and they rated it to do it. And we don't have anything like that available for Beaver Creek. So it could easily be a catastrophe. We know we don't have city water to it. We know we don't have adequate sewers to it. We know we don't have adequate roads to it, and we're planning more and more to happen there. So what are we going to do? We're playing double jeopardy? We're going to put our back against the wall, and if we fail, who's going to pick up the burden of the cost of the failure? It's going to be the citizens. It's going to be Doug or myself or you and every one of us that are left on the hook. And so what I'm asking for is at the end, my summation here tells you that it really needs to be a 4-lane road with a center turn lane, or effectively 5 lanes, all the way out past Holly. You can't use Holly Lane. It's an active landslide area. You know that. We know that. So there isn't a transportation plan. We don't have a concept plan. We've got the horse before the cart. And all I do is I appeal to you to think smart. This is not the time to make a major mistake early on. And this is going to be referred up. If you don't stop it, it's going to be referred up into an appeal, and it's going to burden you down. This is not a time at the start of this new administration to be burdened down with making mistakes. Thank you.
Thank you. Doug Neely.
Madam President, Commissioners.
Commissioner President Pauley, if I could interrupt real quick.
Yeah.
And Mr. Sullivan will assist with the. Sorry.
He's retired, right?
Yes.
Mr. Weisman.
Sorry, lost my train of thought there for a second. This was a Type 2 staff decision that was appealed to the City Commission. Neither Mr. Edgar and I don't believe Mr. Neely, will go back and check, have standing, meaning they didn't participate in the Type 2 decision when it was made.
Okay.
We are recommending to allow that testimony under the condition that at the next hearing we'll bring back a recommendation from the attorney on whether you should allow and consider this testimony or not. So just please take that into consideration as you hear this tonight, and we'll bring forward a recommendation at the next hearing.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Thank you.
And I don't, Bill, do you have anything else to say?
It's that you covered it adequately, and let's get the testimony in, and we'll get you an answer at the next hearing.
Okay.
Actually, I'm going to speak to the appeal of the applicant. My understanding was, listening to the last commission meeting, they're being requested to put in about $5 million in lieu of actual sewer facilities for future build-out, as I understood it.
500,000.
Yeah, 500.
I meant $500,000, excuse me. $500,000.
I like your
decimal point. And I do understand the payment in lieu of actually having it there. I guess the question I had, my understanding is he, in his appeal, as he was making statements, was there was no guarantee that he would get any of that money back should, in fact, the cost of putting in the infrastructure be for his contribution to the infrastructure exceed be less than the new amount. It seems like there's a fairness issue there, and I think there should be some kind of wording in any kind of final decision that actually allows him to get funding back if, in fact, the cost of the ultimate build-out for his contribution is less than the amount that's being held in due. That's my only statement.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward and speak on this item? Does the applicant have a rebuttal of the citizen comments? Okay. All right. So I close the public hearing on item PC 15151. May I have a motion? And this would be for continuance.
Move to continue to February 18th. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
It's a recommendation.
With the record open.
With the record open.
Yeah, you can reopen the public hearing.
Okay.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, moved by Rocky Smith and seconded by Daphne West. Is there any discussion? Okay, call the question.
Commissioner Shaw,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Polly.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, the motion passes.
Katie, can you drop the... I'm up next, I think.
Okay, general business. We have item 1504, resolution supporting governance change for the Tri-City Service District. I'll call for a staff report when you're ready. Connecting.
Messing with their time.
Thank you, Commissioners, for taking the time to hear this topic. This is a resolution supporting governance changes for the Tri-City Service District. So we're asking you to authorize this resolution, and we put together a few slides just to go over with you and bring you up to speed with what this is about. But we're calling we have House Bill 2800 out and on the streets right now. It's called the Local Utility Accountability Act, and that's really what this resolution is about, is acknowledgement by the City Commission to move forward with this bill. So next, let's see, So we wanted to talk to you a little bit about what Tri-City was about, and I know many of you know this, or all of you know about this, but it'd be good for the public to hear as well. So the Tri-City Sewer District is also called TCSD. They're basically provide wastewater treatment for the city of Oregon City, city of West Lynn, and much of Gladstone as well. And the facility is located down on Clackamas River near Highway 213 and I-205. So it's just on the other. It's just on the other side of the I-205 freeway. What's the issue? Well, we've recently come to learn that I would say the staff and possibly the commissioners are considering rate increases of what we see as significant amount. We've been in communication with staff on some of their rate projections, even as much as near as 6 months ago, and those rate projections were much less. But even at that time, we questioned those rates, and they're suggesting that we need to move forward a lot quicker with the capital improvement program, and they're suggesting we need to do that because of population increases that they're projecting. And so this graph represents, the gray is representing the treatment plant or the area, the Tri-City Service District area, and how much growth is planned for the Tri-City Service District area. So you can see across the period of time that we've listed here that it's pretty flat as far as the service district, Tri-City Service District area. They've also in green, we're showing what was forecasted, numbers that we saw. I would say it was probably a year ago. We first saw some of their projections on what needed to happen at the treatment plant in terms of growth, in terms of rate increases. And then the orange represents what we recently saw in December from staff with commissioner support. Commissioner Savas was at that meeting, so we heard from him that he was in agreement that he felt like these kind of rate increases were needed to cover a lot of the wastewater treatment plant upgrades that they're thinking about. So the question about who makes those decisions, the Oregon City doesn't. We don't have that right now. Right now, the Tri-City Service District is managed by Water Environment Services, which is under the umbrella of the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners. So really, the Tri-City Service District and West, they're governed by the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners. Oregon City, West Linn, nor Gladstone have any authority to make decisions for West or the Tri-City Service District. So again, we've got this fee proposal, or fee increase proposal, over the next 9 years, in some cases exceeding 20%. And who makes that decision? Again, it's not the residents of Oregon City, West Linn, or Gladstone. It's our county commissioners. And we've provided kind of an interesting graphic that I like to see. None of the county commissioners that sit on the county commission are within that district. So there's what we see as a pretty large disconnect between those making the decisions on rates in the district and by those people that have no impacts from that rate increase. So their decisions impact other people, and they themselves don't have any impact. So we feel that's a little bit ironic and problematic. So this shouldn't be a surprise. This House bill shouldn't be a surprise to the county or the region, for that matter, others in the service district. The County Board of Commissioners, Doug Neely, our Mayor Doug Neely, drafted a letter, and we sent them a letter, basically asking them for a different governance model that would provide the city or the three cities with more right to govern that and more authority on decisions that are made at the plant. And as of this date, we've not heard any response to that. So we feel like that letter was ignored. So how do we deal with being ignored? It's our position that this is probably a legislative fix, and that's why we're pursuing House Bill 2800. We call it the Local Utility Accountability Act. And it would allow the cities within the district to have the option of making the decision whether they want responsibility over that district. And so that's what this resolution's about, and that's what House Bill 2800 is about. So in conclusion, we've got 3 items here. We think the accountability piece is an unusual missing link for a district of this size. Not having decision makers within that district and making decisions about funding and financing and major capital improvements, and not being a part of that in terms of having to help pay for that, it really kind of limits their accountability. So we think that's a red herring, if you will. The House Bill 2800 would allow us to restore that accountability and provide some local control. We think that's important, in particular for Oregon City. So adoption of Resolution 1504 authorizes and supports the Local Utility Accountability Act, or House Bill 2800. And so we're asking for you to authorize that resolution. I'll try to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Let's see here.
Let's see.
All right. Do we have one citizen wishing to speak on this? Shoot. Okay. Let's hear that first, and then the commission can ask questions. Tom O'Brien? Welcome.
Good evening again. Tom O'Brien, Oregon City. I would encourage you not only to vote on this resolution, but use all of the media and means within your power to communicate this to our citizens. We have 33,000 plus people in this city, and I think that if we can gather them to support this activity in Salem on HB 2800, it's extremely important to us. To allow someone else to control this very important utility function is ridiculous. I don't know how we got into that position to start with. It makes no sense, but I think we have to get the masses involved in speaking up, in contacting their legislators, and supporting it to let them know this has to happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any, oh. I almost said Mayor Neely.
That's all right.
You could do that tonight.
Doug Neely, yes.
Thank you. Commissioners, I think there's another difficulty here is that it is Water Environmental Services that basically operate and run the facility. They are responsible for other facilities as well. And I think it would be very difficult to know whether the monies that we actually pay in through our utility bills to for Tri-City Services, how distinct is that money handled in terms of other facilities that WES offers? That would be one major concern of mine. If you control the facility, then you control the budget. You know all that money is going into the Tri-City facility. If it's another entity unless its budget is very clear in terms of where monies come into and go out in terms of the various facilities they operate, I think that ought to be a concern. And I also would encourage you to take this appropriate action.
Thank you very much. All right, is there any discussion among the commission?
I move to approve Resolution 14-04 supporting governance changes for Tri-City Service District.
Madam President?
Sorry.
Yes.
So before you go on to a second, I was just checking with our finance director. I know the commission received some information, some analysis from us on one particular question, which was one just raised by former Mayor Neely, and that was a financial related question. We have not had a forensic audit at the Tri-City Service District since I've been on their advisory board, advisory committee. And they're probably, so we really can't answer these questions, and I'm not sure that even the county commissioners can answer some of those questions. But we did have our finance department do a quick analysis of their current budget that's on file. So it's kind of alarming when you hear the statistic, but they have approximately 86% of their entire annual operating budget in cash reserves. Public managers will tell you that 20% is a lot more. I mean, I've worked at cities that had 12 or 13. Some cities that are in really great shape have 20 or 25. To have almost 100% of your operating capital sitting in cash while you're raising rates as high as 25% or proposing to raise them as high as 25% year after year, it's alarming to me. It's sort of like good people trapped in a bad system that just isn't accountable. And we all get held accountable every month on our credit card. We have a statement that comes and it reminds us, maybe I need to cut back here or cut back there, and depending on how your tolerance is for risk. And what's alarming to me is being a public servant, being affiliated with a service, and not being able to confidently look any citizen in the eye and tell them we know what's going on. And I cannot tell any citizen or any of you that I have any confidence. I don't know if there's something wrong. There may be nothing wrong. I'm telling you, I've been on that committee for almost 5 years, and I do not know. And I go to every meeting, and I read everything they produce, and I do not know. And that makes it hard to sleep at night. So that's all I have.
Right, and it really is about that. And Mayor Holliday and I and the commission, we've been having to field questions about this, and it really comes down to the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners. They're making decisions for our cities, and it's about us wanting to be responsive to our citizens and know what's going on and be able to scrutinize the details and make sure that things are kind of muddled together right now. And it's really about us wanting to be responsive to.
And to give an example, just because I did say 86% is how much cash they're sitting on in cash reserves. Oregon City is in the strongest financial position it's been in right now in 50 years. And our cash reserves are 34%. And I don't think they're going to get much higher than that. No. So that's allowed us to raise our bond rating a couple of different times in the last few years to a really high position. Actually, there's only one other city in the state that has a higher bond rating than we do because of that. So I don't know what it is that would cause one to harbor so much cash, but I think it does beg an explanation of why rate increases when you have that kind of asset that you're sitting on. And then they're talking about taking on all kinds of new debt to pay for new digesters. Some of these digesters are $25 million capital improvements to add capacity to the plant. Mm-hmm. And I asked our community development director before the last meeting, well, do we know, I know that from talking to the managers in Gladstone and West Linn that the number of building permits they're issuing on an annual basis is in the single digits. Our city is growing fairly quickly, and so we're issuing on average about 100 building permits a year for residential. But when you talk about a plant that's as gigantic as that one, 100 new homes really doesn't have any effect. It's essentially a flat rate. So I know what our district population growth rate is as far as service demand. So what is it within that? We have that information. I mean, it's building permits. We keep track of that. Mm-hmm. So we're not guessing. We have the information. I think Mr. Lewis actually asked some of the staff at Tri-City, he said, do you guys have flow monitoring data showing new flows coming into the plant? Because if they had that data and we had, let's say, 100 building permits, but we showed flow data for 1,000, I'd be asking our building department, where's all those permits? And where are all these houses? We would have a lot bigger conversations, frankly, about traffic than we're having tonight. And so we just know that that kind of growth in the district isn't there. Now, there is impacts from the district in Happy Valley and areas like that, which also send material there, but that's a separate district. And it begs the question about whether growth is being subsidized somewhere else, because if they don't have flow data to back this up, where is it coming from? Well, so those are just some of the issues that we've tried to grapple with, and really without influence from you on the governing body, I don't think we're going to be successful in managing that.
Thank you. And those are very, very important points. And I think that we should be able to have the opportunity to ask those questions and scrutinize. And right now we don't have representation, so we're not able to do that. And also, as a city, we've been very conservative about raising rates. We're trying to keep up with the cost of living, inflation, and all that, but we've been very conservative. And to have something, have these rates jump so alarmingly and not have any input into it or any scrutiny or representation is we just don't feel that's right for our citizens.
Someone seconded it. Really fast.
Well, I'll second.
Okay.
So are you going to with?
Do we want a question?
Yeah.
Okay, call for the
Commissioner Shaw?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner West?
Aye.
Commissioner Pauly?
Aye. All right, it's been approved unanimously.
And if I could say something too, I know we kind of rushed through that a little bit. You know,
I don't think we went fast enough.
Well, we can't set record speed. This is not good.
we have to
Everybody
remember
should be
that
heard.
we are the ones that have to protect our citizens. It's up here, you know, and the way we do that is, and the reason we're in the position we are is because we have control. The city, the staff, we are able to control our destiny. And this is just another way to keep protecting our citizens and keeping control of what we need to have done here to manage our assets here. So
Yes, and hold people accountable. Right.
yes.
Anything else, Daphne?
I'm supportive.
All right, excellent. Okay.
You don't need any Dr. Pepper or anything, okay?
I don't need a Dr. Pepper. We'll save that for Mayor Holiday. Thank you very much. Okay, consent agenda. All right. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it. Yeah, right there. There you go. Second.
Commissioner Shaw,
Aye.
Commissioner Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Polly.
Aye.
I do want to thank Mr. O'Brien for his input there, and I hope you got a clarification on your.
Wasn't satisfactory to that either.
Okay, thanks.
I'd like it in writing.
Okay. Moving on to reports.
Thank you, Commissioner Polly. Mr. Parno, did you want to talk on this issue, or you want me to summarize? Okay. Well, I just want to tell a little story about our finance department. You remember last year when our finance department basically became a realtor / title company / bank service provider by helping us structure a transaction by which we could acquire the Mount Pleasant property from the school district. And after we negotiated the terms, then we had to find a way to make the financing fit with the Oregon Department of Revenue rules and also with state budget law. So our finance director, the statutes are basically silent on how cities are supposed to structure that kind of transaction. So we wanted to make sure that we, stayed consistent with the state's interpretation. So our finance director met with the manager down there, and in the last budget cycle, we made some changes in how we appropriate funds. And we had they had a theoretical discussion that you would expect accountants to have, and then this week, Wyatt was attending some training in Salem and found that the Oregon Department of Revenue has now redesigned their statewide budget forms to be consistent with our method of appropriating and is addressing budgets for intended loans using our method. So I just want to, again, give kudos to our really talented finance director and his staff for coming up with these kinds of solutions that really turned out to work for Oregonians across the state. So thank you, Wyatt.
Well, thanks,
Thank
Wyatt.
you.
Thank you, Wyatt.
And the next Chief Band has an update on the Oregon City Police Department. Well, we have a construction project coming by state mandate that we have to build a new police station within a few years to be seismically sufficient. So we're trying to come up with some out-of-the-box ways that will lower the impacts on taxpayers in our city and that still allow us to build a building. So I think Jim wants to talk a little bit about that, the education piece of that and doing some public outreach.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so Mount Pleasant was a perfect segue. Most people know that we have purchased the property, and basically what we're doing, this is kind of the next step from what we talked about at the retreat session. I think that Mr. Fraser sent you a copy of some information that we're going to be handing out in the public. We're essentially going on a kind of a speaking tour. I've never run for office, but I feel like a campaign is beginning. And the purpose of which is just to go, I think the only way that people have known to raise money for anything is through a bond. And we've done some research into some other options. which we proposed to you, and we're going to be hitting every neighborhood association, the business groups, any civic groups that we can hit. And if you hear of anybody, or if anybody's listening at home and we're not on your agenda at your neighborhood, or yet we're going to hit every neighborhood, but a group that we miss, email myself or Chris Wadsworth. Our information's on the website, and we'll make sure that somebody gets there to give this to you in person. Additionally, we have, by Friday at 5 p.m., we're going to have a tab on our website, on the police department website, basically explaining three things. Explaining what our proposed funding source is, the fee that we talked to you about, kind of the nuts and bolts of that so people can see it if they don't attend one of these meetings. The other thing is just some refresher information about the need for a new building. Why do we need a new building? And it's not just our information, but it is a lot of the stuff that's supported by the needs assessment that was done by Group McKenzie. And then the third thing is a tab kind of explaining what the plan is at the Mount Pleasant site. And again, this is the concept design with photos and renderings and information that we had from McKenzie. And our plan is to educate the public, get feedback from them on what they think of our proposed plan, and to get it done by March 31st. And what is key about that date is on March 31st at the police department at 6:30 p.m. we're going to have an open house, and we're going to go through everything about that utility, but then we're going to also talk about the site, have the renderings, answer people's questions, and also walk people through the building up there and just educate them on every piece of this. So that's March 31st at 6:30, and then after that we'll be coming back to you and kind of talking about what we found. That's all.
Thank you. Very
Great.
exciting.
Yes, it is.
That concludes my reports. Oh, you had something? Okay.
I'm just house cleaning item. Sorry.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Yeah, this last minute thing.
We did talk about it. I'm not surprised.
You're right.
So real quickly, just something came up that we needed to deal with tonight because it's regarding a recording of a plat for a subdivision that's built. And when you go to the title company, you need to sign. There's these deadlines, and it's come upon us. And today we got a call from both the title company and the county surveyor saying, hey, in the past we've never asked for this, but we're asking for it now. So in this particular subdivision, there's a tract of land that's for stormwater detention pond. Typically, in any plat before, we've noted that tract of land as being public property. We've signed the plat, and it's been a done deal. Based on new information that I think the title company's got and the county surveyor have gotten, they now want what's called a bargain and sale deed for that property. So it puts that property, it's yet another level of certainty that that property is city property and we're the owner of that. So we haven't had to do that before. I think we're going to have to do that in the future. We got to work out some of the details about whether we bring every one of those back to the city commission or if there's another way of doing that. And because typically we don't bring plats to the city commission. It's already, by that time it's a done deal, right?
Yeah.
So we've talked to Bill and Carrie, and we're going to figure out the plan for the future. But for today, the city manager should be able to sign. Typically, Tony and the city engineer sign plats. This isn't much different than. No, it's not any different at all. It's a little more clarification for a piece of property that we're already acknowledging ownership of. So we need the city manager to sign that, and after discussing it today, we thought we'd better bring it to you in this case and just get that nod of approval.
Basically, I wasn't comfortable signing it because we ordinarily put deeds on your agenda, but we don't ordinarily have deeds like this one. And so until we have a policy, since we didn't have a policy to cover this new process, I thought it would be just prudent to ask if there's anyone here that objects to my signing that plat to accept the property for that. And if you don't, I'll go ahead and sign it. Because we don't have a policy yet and it's a new process, I didn't want to not tell you about it. So.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, sign away.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you'll probably be seeing a policy relatively quickly.
Good. It's good to have policies. Okay. Commission. Daphne, would you like to start?
Sure. We had an exciting week this week because on Monday, the State Heritage Commission met here in Oregon City and approved the first state heritage area in Oregon for the Willamette Falls area here. And I'll give you a little context to the situation. In 2012, the state even developed it's a new program for a state heritage area. So we had to complete an application and complete 15 out of 20 criteria, which we did. So our approval was with conditions, and that our final approval will be at the State Heritage Conference on April 23rd. And here I will just share a little bit of the conditions of approval. So most of them were kind of minor, and they kind of got down to technical writing, clarity issues. So probably rearranging a few paragraphs, tying our themes and stories together. And nothing that we didn't think that we could, that we will be able to complete in 30 days. There was also some questions of the geographic area of it, because we had pictures of some homes in Lake Oswego that were not in the iron foundry in the boundaries that we had set in our text, but the pictures were there. So that was kind of minor things. And on the more substantive issues, they would like us to strengthen our website. They said our website would kind of met the bare minimum, and as far as in content and links and things like that. So we're going to work on that. And then they had asked if we had a strategic plan. So we always call it ALAHA, so act like a heritage area. What does a heritage area do? So we need to get our strategic plan and talk about what that really means for our community. So they're looking for more heritage tourism partnerships, recreational partnerships, and so that's just a couple things. Now, they don't expect us to have those done in 30 days, and when we receive our designation on April 23rd, there will be a process. So every 2 years, at 2 years, they want to keep us in compliance. So we will have had to prove these things in 2 years. And so that's some of the next steps. So we're going to, within 30 days, we're going to get our application back in, and then we look for full approval on the April 23rd. That was one meeting. Do you want to hear another?
Sure.
So I'm sorry that Mayor Holliday isn't here tonight because he had some concerns over this. So the other meeting, Mr. O'Brien was saying earlier, when new commissioners, you always have to get up to speed for what's been rolling. So I went to the Willamette Falls Friends group, and the idea of this group, I learned that evening, was to keep up the energy of the project so far that's been going on the legacy, and perhaps to be able to fundraise and receive monies that local governments can't. So, most of the evening they were working on trying to draft a mission statement. This is only the second meeting. It's a big process, big funnel. They're still way up. What does this group want to do? So one of the things they started with was an analysis of the current stakeholders, which was really important to Mayor Holliday and myself, because there's so many heritage groups and recreational groups here, and what's this group going to do differently, and how do we all fit and work together? So so they looked at that, and then the next question they asked everyone in the room is, why do you want to be here? What's it take for you to stay involved in this process? And this had a range of answers from saving the lamprey, restoring habitat, and balancing water recreational usage. And then somebody else brought up, well, gosh, we need to raise money. So once the need was expressed that this needed to be a fundraising group, 99% of the people in that room said, well, I'm here as the public. I care about all these other issues, and you need to have a staff or hire somebody if we're talking fundraiser. It won't be fundraising. It won't be any of us. And I just have to share this too. So they went a little farther on and asked a few more questions, and actually took votes on this to really define the next steps. And one was on geographic options of what area is this group going to focus on? And I was so surprised because I'm new to this whole process, but they had everything from focusing on the Riverwalk and the public viewing to going on to the whole site, public and private, the Willamette Falls area. I mean, their scope could be huge. So they took a vote, and the majority said, we'll just focus on the Riverwalk and the public viewing spaces. Then they wanted to know everybody and asked everybody in the room, is this just a short-term thing you want to, are you interested in, just getting this off the ground, or is this a long-term, short-term until the Riverwalk's done? Or do you want to work until the redevelopment is all, is underway or open to the public, or long-term, in perpetuity? And they took a vote on that, and the long-term came out. So these are all good, that the public cares and they're interested in the long-term thing of it. So where do I want to go here? So the next steps. So the next meeting, they're going to consult with all the stakeholders of the nonprofits in the area, and they're going to reconvene and go from there. But so I was really relieved to see that they were going to talk with the stakeholders and balance, some of those needs with the general public. So it's just another step in the process. No outcome it's not a final thing yet. And so anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Rocky, do you have anything?
Last night at the Community Services Building at the county building, they hosted a art reception for a project that our city was very much a part of. The staff working on the Willamette Falls Legacy Project, partnering with the county and partnering with Metro, and the site, the Willamette Falls, George Heigerken allowed 30 artists to go on to the site, the Willamette Falls site in, I think it was in October, to create art. And there was a day-long exploration of the site where photographers could take pictures and people could do artwork. And some of the artwork is within City Hall out on the walls today. They've been up, I think, for a couple weeks. And the rest of the artwork is on display at the Community Services Building. So last night, John Ludlow, Chair Ludlow, represented the county and kind of acted as the MC for an event to open this art reception, which was Art Contemplates Industry, Blue Heron, Oregon City. And the turnout was huge. There was a ton of people there. The artwork is incredible. This is the flyer from the event last night, with all the artwork listed inside of it. And I think that the artwork will be at least up through the end of this next month, maybe even longer. So if you get a chance to come by City Hall or go to the Community Service Building, check out the artwork. This wouldn't have happened, of course, without Clackamas County Arts Alliance and Cheryl Snow. Carlotta Collette was there last night representing Metro. I didn't expect the turnout that it was last night. It was very impressive. People were very excited, not only to be able to kind of capture some of the images of that site that's going to be changing forever, but to keep those images kind of in our forefront and to kind of take an inventory of it, really, and how the public views that space. And it attracted a lot of people, I think, that were just interested in the site. The event started at, I think I was there at 5:45 and looked at all the artwork, spoke on behalf of the city, and then didn't plan originally to stay very long afterwards. And before I knew it, I was like the only one left in the building, pretty much, because people kept coming up to me and talking about the project and about how the city, what we were doing as a city, and it's so exciting. And as I know we all know that, and so I then had a conversation with Carlotta at the end, right before I got in my car to go home, and we were just kind of commenting on how far we've come, and we all know how far we've come in 3 years working on the Lamp Falls project, and it's amazing to think we're at this point where we're really actually starting to see things move. It's exciting.
Yeah, and it's really about the partnership, and the turnout just shows how important this project is to the whole region and beyond. So that's amazing. Thanks,
that's
Rocky. Okay, well, I'll go to me and then go to you.
Okay.
I think we all went to the Friends of Willamette Falls. Weren't we all there at that meeting? Were you there at the Friends?
No, I didn't.
Oh, you were there. Okay. It was a lot of information, just like what Daphne said. I was really hoping out of that meeting to see the Friends be the group that really pulls all the other groups together to pool their resources to make that river walk great. So I will be at the next meeting, and maybe I can get that out there. So good. I do want to, Wyatt got me thinking when he was talking about, the award, the new thing that you did. And I just want to acknowledge all the things that the city has done. We're kind of paving the way for a lot of things, and I think every department head has initiated new things, new systems in their department. The commission, we've had the row ordinance, so looking out for our citizens to make sure that we get those right-of-way fees so that we can make sure to keep up our facilities. And then we just, the House bill, to make sure that cities can be represented properly. And there's a lot of other things. Just all the partnerships that we've had in the regional projects with the Willamette Falls. And I'm very proud of the city and the staff and the citizens, and just feel like we're all working together to help this little city grow up a little bit. So, thank you.
I was wondering how long your list was going to be there.
Well, it could be
It's
a
a
lot.
big one. It's a big one of all those wonderful staff.
There's been a lot
You guys
done
already
here,
used up your time limit. So
Jeez. Oh my gosh.
I got to razz you a little bit.
Okay, so I'm on the library building board with Mo, and we had a little meeting last week, I believe it was, on here. So bring you up to date a little bit on that. We a couple of things. We're kind of doing a little assessment of repurposing some of the wood out of the Ermitanger house, and see if there's some way we can put that into that new library somehow. So, do you know about that, Rocky?
I know a little bit about that.
Okay.
I would like to know more about that.
Okay, all right.
I thought you'd be down there.
Well, we're just kind of looking at it. See
I
if
can't
it's
be there all the time, I just can't.
Oh, you work. Yeah,
and heavy on the word assessment, Rocky, because it may be salvageable and it may not. So we are going to look at it. Okay. We also have to look at.
Be prepared. If, something might come with the wood pieces from the house over to the. Just be careful.
Okay.
Yeah. We are looking at also the some of the seismic measures that are involved with the existing Carnegie building, especially on the back wall. It's going to be abutting the new structure, and the easiest way, obviously, is just to take where the openings are now, like the windows, and just take those out and take those all the way down to the floor, and that would be your openings. We can do that. And I think you might have saw the pictures of that, of the interior perspectives that Sid Scott has shown us here a few times and stuff. So we're kind of dealing with the seismic stuff now a little bit. Also, we're still working on the configuration of the playground, and we'll be meeting with PRAC again. and going over some playground stuff. So the other meeting I went to Monday night was the CIC. As you may or may not know, we're kind of redesigning the CIC a little bit to where we're all more effective staff and even the CIC members. And so we kind of worked that out, and it went over fairly well. It's just going to take a little bit getting used to. We're kind of going back to how it was before. And so it's actually going to be more effective for everybody. And I have volunteered to be the liaison for the commission on there, which they haven't had before. And we will have a planner, I believe, at these meetings too, instead of, Tony, is that correct? And so it'll be a planner and myself probably at these meetings. They're only going to be every other month now. And we're only going to have one representative per neighborhood association, whereas there's two there all the time at all these meetings, and we're going to kind of narrow that down. So I think it's going to work fine. In fact, I think it's going to be great because it's kind of preparing it for Jim for his.
So it's really going to get back to land
I know he's
use,
got a hot one
right?
down there, so he's yeah. Somebody needs their car towed or something over there. But anyway, so yeah, and that's what I told him. I said, because I saw the value of those neighborhood associations just by going out and campaigning and being able to get out in front of the community like that and those groups, and then we saw it with the library, being able to go out into those neighborhood associations and just get a collective group of people there at one time, and there's 12 of them, so it's going to be pretty effective. We've kind of set the stage for Chief Band on his project now, so I think he's going to have a lot of success doing that. So that's all I got.
Okay. There being no further business.